"Excuse me, sir, can we have your leftovers?" The voice, thin and trembling, pierced through the warm, velvety air of La Fontaine like a cold wind through silk. It didn't belong. Not here. Not in this palace of chandeliers, fine jazz, and $1,000 wine. Jonathan Reed, billionaire tech mogul and man who hadn't been surprised by much in the last 10 years, blinked. He slowly lowered his glass of 2010 Cabernet. He thought he'd misheard. Hadn't. At the entrance stood two little black girls, no more than 6 years old, dirty, rattling thin. One stood tall, defiant. The other half hid behind her sister, her eyes wide and scared. Their clothes were torn in ways that didn't look accidental, and their hair was matted, their skin dusted with the kind of neglect that only time and society could cause. The older one spoke again. "We don't need money. Just something to eat." Jonathan's first instinct was disbelief. How did they even get past the front? This was La Fontaine. For God's sake. Security was tighter than at some airports. But his second instinct was something else. Before he could process it, chaos erupted. "What the hell, hey, get out of here." It was the head of security, a man named Clay, broad like a refrigerator and just as warm, charging across the floor like a linebacker. Emily, the younger girl, squeaked and pressed herself against her sister. Anna stood still. Clay didn't. With one arm, he grabbed Emily's wrist, then Anna's with the other. Jonathan stood, voice sharp. "Stop. Let them go." Clay barely turned his head. "Mr. Reed, please, this is a liability." I said let them go. But Clay was already moving, dragging the girls back toward the exit. Emily cried out. Anna struggled silently. The entire restaurant had gone quiet, eyes glued to the unfolding disaster like it was reality television. Jonathan stepped between them. "Clay, I'm telling you." And then it happened. A sharp push, not violent, but fast and unexpected. Clay shoved Jonathan aside with one arm, instinctively, like swatting a fly. Jonathan stumbled backward and crashed into his own table. The silver clattered. His untouched steak flew off the plate. The wine spilled like blood across the linen tablecloth. The glass shattered. His chair toppled with him, and for the first time in years, Jonathan Reed, the man on magazine covers, keynote stages, and Forbes power lists, was lying on the floor of a restaurant with soup on his shirt and steak on his lap. Gasps filled the room. "Sir," someone whispered, but no one moved. No one except the girls who were now frozen mid-drag, watching with wide, frightened eyes. If this story touched your heart, let us know in the comments. Tell us where you're watching from. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more powerful stories that matter. Your voice helps us keep sharing the truth. Jonathan rose slowly, face flushed not with embarrassment, but with rage. He pointed at Clay, who'd gone pale. "Touch them again," Jonathan growled. "And I'll have your badge, your job, and every cent you own in court." Clay let go of the girls like they were radioactive. The maitre d' appeared then, out of breath. "Mr. Reed, please, we deeply apologize. We'll clean this up at once. Let me escort the children out and we can..." "Number," Jonathan's voice shook not from fear but fury. "They stay here. With me." The maitre d' hesitated. "But they aren't guests." "They are now." "Sir, this isn't protocol. It reflects poorly." "On who?" Jonathan shot back. "Me, or the restaurant that assaults hungry children?" A heavy silence fell. Jonathan turned to a nearby waiter. "Get them 2 chairs, a clean tablecloth, and something hot. Cocoa, soup, whatever's ready fastest." The waiter looked around, uncertain. Jonathan raised his voice. "Do I need to spell it out for everyone? Or should I call the press myself and tell them how La Fontaine treats the hungry like rats?" The waiter scrambled into motion. Another busboy ran to replace the linens. Someone brought fresh plates. Jonathan turned back to the girls. Anna was watching him like he was something foreign, a man in power not pretending not to see her. "Come," he said softly. "Sit. You're safe now." Anna hesitated. "You're not going to throw us out?" "Number, even if we're dirty? You're hungry, that's all that matters." Emily looked at him, teary-eyed. "But that man, he hurt my wrist." Jonathan's face darkened. "He won't touch you again." Slowly, Anna led Emily to the table. They sat. Two chairs that had once hosted Hollywood royalty now held two children who hadn't known warmth in weeks. A server brought soup and bread. Emily gripped the mug of cocoa like it was a campfire. Anna tore her bread in half and gave the bigger piece to her sister. Neither touched the silverware. Jonathan noticed, then silently swapped his own utensils for plastic, placing them in front of the girls. Anna's eyes flicked to his ruined shirt. "You got food on you." Jonathan looked down. Gravy and red wine soaked through his white collar. "I've worn worse." Anna cracked a smile, barely. The maitre d' cleared his throat again. "Read, if I may." "No," Jonathan said, cutting him off. "You may not." Then he sat, across from the two girls. In silence, a flash went off in the back. Someone had taken a photo. He didn't care. He reached for his water and raised it slightly, like a toast. "To courage," he said. Anna looked confused. "What's that?" He smiled. "What it took for you to walk in here." Emily leaned over to Anna. "I like him." Anna didn't respond. But she didn't stop eating either. And for Jonathan, who'd long believed that nothing real remained in his world of luxury, branding, and spin, this moment, messy and undignified, was the most human thing he'd felt in years. The clink of ceramic cups and quiet chewing was the only sound left at Jonathan Reed's table. Everything else in La Fontaine seemed to hold its breath. Waiters moved cautiously. Guests whispered behind napkins. And the maitre d' lingered just out of sight, his smile frozen in place like a cracked porcelain mask. Jonathan didn't care. He sat with gravy still drying on his shirt, wine staining his sleeve, and a pair of small eyes watching him from across the table like he might disappear. Emily had finished half her soup. She was slower now, as if scared that eating too fast might end the dream. Anna, on the other hand, ate with precision-measured bites, scanning the room between every spoonful, like someone who had learned long ago that safety could vanish as quickly as it arrived. Jonathan leaned back slightly, hands folded. "How long have you two been on your own?" Anna's chewing paused. She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand, then glanced at her sister. "A while." He nodded slowly. "Your sisters?" "Yes," she said. "Twins. Kinda." "Kinda?" She shrugged. "I'm 6. She's 6. But I came out first. That's what Mama said." He smiled faintly. "Do you know where your mama is now?" A long silence. "No," Anna replied. "She left us at the park. She said she'd be back. That was before it got cold." Jonathan felt something tighten in his chest. "And your father?" "Never met him," Anna answered flatly. Emily was tracing patterns on her cocoa mug. "Maybe he's rich like you," she whispered. "Mama used to say that our daddy had money." Jonathan blinked. Anna immediately corrected. "She just said that to make us feel better. People like you don't have kids like us." Jonathan didn't respond. His hand went instinctively to his pocket, fingers brushing against the thin outline of a worn leather photograph holder. He stopped himself from pulling it out. He looked around and signaled to the waiter, who approached cautiously like Jonathan might explode at any sudden movement. 2 to-go bags," Jonathan said, "and wrap up 2 chocolate croissants, warm." "Yes, sir." The waiter stammered and hurried off. Anna squinted. "You sending us away now?" "No," Jonathan said gently. "But it's late, and I'm taking you home." "You're home?" she asked. "Yes." Anna's eyes narrowed. "You don't know us." Jonathan nodded. "You're right. I don't. But I know what it feels like to be cold. And hungry. And to have no one give a damn." "You rich people don't know that," Anna muttered, glancing around the room. "I didn't always have money," Jonathan replied, his tone lowering. "I was 17 the first time I slept in a car. 20 when I begged for change to buy medicine for my daughter. That was before all this." Anna's posture changed slightly. Not relaxed, but less guarded. Emily yawned, her head now resting on the table. "You got kids?" Anna asked. "I had a daughter," Jonathan said after a pause. "She passed away." "Oh," Anna murmured. "I'm sorry." Jonathan gave a small nod. The croissants arrived in warm paper bags. Jonathan handed one to each girl, then stood. "Let's go." Anna hesitated. "What if we're trouble? What if we mess up your fancy house?" He knelt, eye level with her again. "Then I'll clean up." She looked at him like she didn't believe anyone had ever said that to her before. Outside, the night had deepened. The parking valet handed Jonathan his keys, avoiding eye contact. A silver Range Rover glided up to the curb. Jonathan opened the back door, but Anna hesitated again. "People have tried to be nice before," she said. "But they always change their minds." Jonathan looked her straight in the eye. "I don't." That was the only answer he gave. The ride was quiet. Emily fell asleep halfway through, her head resting on Anna's lap. Streetlights passed in slow motion across the windows. Jonathan glanced in the mirror a few times. Anna stared at the city lights like they were from another planet. "You live far?" she asked softly. "Bel-Air," he said. Anna blinked. "That the place with the big houses?" He nodded. "Yeah, but mine's just a house. Bet it's got heat." He chuckled. "It's got that, yeah." 15 minutes later, they pulled up to a modern, understated mansion set behind trimmed hedges and automatic gates. It wasn't the kind of place that screamed wealth, it whispered it. Jonathan stepped out first. The girls followed slowly, Emily groggy and rubbing her eyes. "Whoa," she said sleepily. "You got a fountain?" "That's just for the birds," Jonathan smiled. Inside, the house was warm, quiet. A wall-mounted fireplace cast a soft glow across the hardwood floors. "Wow," Anna whispered. "This place smells like..." new. Jonathan led them into the living room, where a housekeeper, a woman in her late 50s named Rosa, appeared from the hallway, eyes widening at the sight of the children. "Sir?" she asked carefully. "They'll be staying in the guest room tonight," Jonathan said. "Warm sheets, extra blankets. They need sleep." Rosa nodded quickly, recovering. "Of course, I'll make it ready." Anna clutched Emily's hand. "Do we get our own beds?" "Yes," Jonathan said. "No one will bother you here." He turned to Emily. "And if you get scared, the nightlights turn on automatically. Just wave your hand." Emily looked up at him. "You're really nice." Jonathan smiled faintly. "Let's see if you still think that after breakfast." Rosa returned minutes later. "All ready, sir." The girls followed her down the hallway. Anna glanced back once. Her eyes were cautious but softer now. "Good night, Mr. Reed," she said quietly. "Good night, Anna. Good night, Emily." He watched them go, his living room now filled with small footprints and a silence he hadn't known he missed until now. Jonathan stood there for a long moment. Then, slowly, he sat down on the couch. He pulled the photograph from his pocket. A girl, age 8, smiled back at him from a swing. His daughter, maybe this time. He whispered to the empty room. "I won't fail." The morning sunlight slipped gently through the tall windows of Jonathan Reed's Bel-Air home, casting soft lines across the marble floors and spilling onto the oak banisters like golden silk. But it wasn't the sunlight that woke Jonathan, it was the sound. Soft, hesitant, like paper feet brushing wood. He sat up on the leather couch, disoriented. His neck ached from sleeping upright. His shirt was still stained from last night's chaos. But then he heard it again, the faint shuffle of small steps. He stood and turned toward the hallway. Anna stood at the edge of the corridor, wearing an oversized t-shirt that Rosa must have given her. Her arms were crossed, not in defiance this time, but as if holding herself together. "Morning," Jonathan said, voice low. She nodded, eyes darting around the spacious room. "It's big. Too big," he replied. "Most days it just echoes." Anna stepped forward slowly, her bare feet making no sound on the polished floor. "Emily's still asleep. Let her rest, she needs it." Anna hesitated, then asked, "Can I help with something?" Jonathan raised an eyebrow. "Help?" "Yeah," she said quickly. "Cleaning. Or dishes. Or folding stuff. People don't usually let us stay if we don't help." Jonathan's expression softened. He crossed the room and crouched so he could meet her at eye level. "Anna, you don't owe me anything." You're not a guest who has to earn her keep. You're a child. In this house, you don't pay for food with labor. You just eat, sleep, be safe. Anna's face tightened at the word safe, like it didn't belong to her world. You keep saying that, she muttered. Because I mean it. She didn't respond, but after a long pause, she whispered, I didn't think people like you actually existed. He stood and offered a hand. Want to help make pancakes? That got a reaction. Her eyebrows rose, skeptical. You cook? Badly, he admitted. But Rosa's here to save me when I mess up. In the kitchen, Rosa was already bustling about, the scent of vanilla and cinnamon in the air. She looked up and smiled when she saw Anna. Good morning, sweetheart. I've got fresh strawberries, and your sister's still dreaming of chocolate. Anna slid onto a stool at the kitchen island and watched closely as Rosa whisked batter. Jonathan, true to his word, attempted to flip a pancake and ended up folding it into a clumsy crescent. That's not how they do it on television, Anna said, deadpan. Jonathan laughed. Nope, that's the Jonathan Reed signature flip. They ate together at the kitchen nook, a small table surrounded by glass walls that overlooked the back garden. Emily joined them halfway through, rubbing her eyes and whispering, It smells happy. That sentence stayed with Jonathan longer than he expected. After breakfast, Rosa took the girls upstairs to shower and dress. Jonathan stood by the window, sipping coffee, watching the breeze ripple through the rose bushes. His phone buzzed. He checked the screen. Rachel L. 5. Missed calls. His cousin. And his company's interim board chair. He could already hear her voice. Sharp. Disapproving. Accusing. He didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, he made another call to someone he hadn't spoken to in over a year. Douglas? Jonathan said as the line connected. Jonathan, wow. Thought you dropped off the earth. I need help. There was a beat of silence. Legal help or personal? Both. Talk. I've got 2 kids, sisters, 6 years old. They were abandoned. No records. No guardians. They stayed here last night. Douglas whistled softly. You sure about this? No, Jonathan admitted. But they walked into La Fontaine last night and asked me for leftovers. That's not something you forget. You want guardianship? Eventually. For now, just make sure no one takes them away. Douglas paused. You know Rachel's going to lose her mind. She already has. Tell her if she calls again, she can speak to my lawyer. Consider it done. By noon, the house was filled with sound. Emily discovered the piano in the living room and began poking keys. Badly. Loudly. Anna found a coloring book on the coffee table and sat cross-legged on the rug, focused, tongue between her teeth. Jonathan watched from the hallway. He didn't interrupt. He just watched. Like a man staring at something fragile. He didn't dare touch. Then the doorbell rang. Rosa appeared, frowning. Expecting anyone? Number. Jonathan moved toward the door, checked the monitor. Paparazzi. 3 of them, cameras ready, already snapping through the glass. He cursed under his breath and turned to Rosa. Keep the girls inside. Close the blinds. He opened the door just enough to slide through and stepped onto the porch. Mr. Reed, is it true you brought homeless children into your home? Are they related to you, sir? Have you officially adopted them? Or is this just for publicity? Jonathan raised a hand. No comment. He turned, went back inside, and shut the door hard enough to shake the walls. Anna stood nearby, holding Emily's hand, eyes wide. Are they here for us? Emily asked. Jonathan knelt. They're here for me. And they're not getting anything. Anna stared at him. You mad? Not at you, he said. At the world. For making this your normal. He stood. We'll get you clothes tomorrow. And maybe a checkup. You mean a doctor? Anna asked. He nodded. She hesitated. We don't go to doctors. They ask too many questions. I know, Jonathan said gently. But I'll be with you. Anna glanced down. Emily squeezed her sister's hand tighter. And in that quiet, crowded moment of uncertainty, Anna said the first words that made Jonathan's heart stop. If you're gonna give up, do it now. Don't wait till we start liking you. Jonathan knelt again, I'm not giving up. You sure? She asked. He placed a hand over his heart. On my life. Anna didn't smile, but she didn't walk away either. And that was enough. The next morning brought a strange quiet. Not the cold, uncertain silence of a forgotten alley or a sleepless night on a bus stop bench, but a peaceful hush that blanketed the Reed home like freshly fallen snow. Birds chirped softly outside the windows. The smell of eggs and toast drifted from the kitchen. Anna was already awake, sitting on the stairs with her knees pulled to her chest. She wasn't used to soft beds or pillows that didn't smell like mildew. She had only slept in short bursts, always half listening. For footsteps, for shouts, for doors slamming. But none of that came. Downstairs, she heard Jonathan's voice. Calm. Clear. Talking to someone. She stood, bare feet pressing into the warm wood floor, and padded silently down the steps. She stopped at the corner just before the kitchen. Jonathan was at the counter, phone to his ear, flipping through a notebook. Yes, Douglas. Run the background check again. No hits on any local missing child reports. No records from school. Nothing. We need to widen the search. A pause. Number no police. Not yet. Another pause. I don't trust the system, Doug. Not with these girls. If they go in, they might not come back out. Anna stiffened. Jonathan's voice softened. No. I haven't told them yet. I don't want to make promises I can't keep. He hung up. Anna walked in, arms folded. You think they're gonna take us? Jonathan turned, surprised, but didn't flinch. Good morning. She didn't answer the greeting. You said you wouldn't let them. I won't. But you're checking to see if someone's looking for us. I am. Because if your mom is out there, if she's trying to come back for you, I need to know. She's not. No. She's not, Anna said again louder. People don't lose their kids on accident. She left us. She's not coming back. Jonathan took a breath, walked around the counter, and crouched in front of her. Then I need to make sure no one else gets to take you either. That's all I'm trying to do. Anna stared at him for a long moment. Then her arms slowly dropped to her sides. Is it gonna be like the group homes? Are there rules? Jonathan tilted his head. What kind of rules? Like, no eating after a certain time, no talking back, no making noise. He smiled gently. Rule 1. You can always eat. Rule 2. You can always talk. Rule 3. He leaned closer. You're allowed to laugh in this house. A flicker of something crossed her face. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. Later that day, Jonathan took the girls to a small, family-owned boutique in Westwood. No paparazzi followed. His assistant, Martha, had called ahead and booked the place for a private hour. The store owner, a kind elderly woman named Loretta, didn't flinch at the girls' ragged clothes or uncombed hair. We've had worse, she whispered to Jonathan as she led them in. One time, a kid showed up without shoes in the middle of December. We gave him Christmas socks and called it fashion. Anna was hesitant at first, picking plain jeans and t-shirts with no color. Emily, on the other hand, sprinted for anything with sparkles. Jonathan sat nearby, letting Rosa and Loretta guide them. Anna walked out of the dressing room in a navy hoodie and new sneakers, arms crossed again. Jonathan raised an eyebrow. What do you think? She looked down at herself. Feels weird. Like I'm pretending to be someone else. He stood. You're not pretending. You're just remembering what it feels like to be treated right. Emily appeared seconds later, wearing a tutu and cowboy boots. She has no idea what weather is, Anna muttered. Jonathan grinned. Fashion icon in the making. When they returned home, there was a clipboard resting on the front gate. Jonathan's name was written in large, bold letters on a manila envelope clipped beneath it. He frowned and picked it up, flipping through. Inside was a legal notice. Notice of welfare investigation. Subject, Emily and Anna. Last name unknown. Complaint filed, anonymous. He read the rest in silence, face slowly tightening. That evening, during dinner, grilled cheese and tomato soup per Emily's excited suggestion, Jonathan tried to act normal. But Anna noticed. She always noticed. You're quiet, she said mid-bite. Just thinking, he replied. You think loud, she said. He looked at her. then at Emily, who was licking her spoon. "There might be someone from the city coming soon," he finally said. "A social worker." Anna froze. "No," she said quickly. "We're not going. I'm not sending you anywhere," he replied gently. "But they're going to ask questions. It's part of the process." "They always lie," Anna said. "They say they want to help, but then they send you away." Jonathan leaned forward. "They won't get to make that call. I've already filed for emergency guardianship. My lawyer's handling it." Anna narrowed her eyes. "Why?" "Because I don't think safety should come with conditions. Because I lost my own child once, and I couldn't save her. Maybe this is my second chance to do something right." Emily looked up. "What was her name?" Jonathan blinked. "Lily," he said softly. She had hair like fire and a laugh that made the neighbors jealous. "Is she in heaven?" Emily asked. Jonathan nodded. "I think so. Do you think our mama's there too?" Anna flinched at that, but said nothing. Jonathan didn't answer right away. "If she is, I hope she's watching. Because you two are worth more than any world she left behind." There was a long silence after that. Emily reached over and grabbed his hand. Anna didn't, but she didn't pull away either when Jonathan reached for hers. That night, after they went to bed, Jonathan stood outside their door. He listened to the faint hum of Emily's breathing, the soft rustle of blankets. Then he turned and walked down the hall. The clipboard from the gate sat on his desk, now torn in half. He opened his laptop and pulled up a document titled, "Private Trust Reed Legacy." He typed in 2 names. Anna, Emily, no last name needed. The morning sun was sharp against the bay windows, drawing golden slats across the marble floor. Jonathan stood in the kitchen, a coffee cup in one hand, his phone in the other, reading through a document from Douglas's firm. Emergency guardianship was in progress. Legally, he was still in limbo, but emotionally, he'd already made the decision. The girls were still upstairs. Emily had discovered stuffed animals in the guest room's closet the night before and insisted on tucking them all into a row beneath the covers. Anna had helped but stayed quiet afterward, staring at the ceiling long after the lights were out. Jonathan was just about to check on them when the intercom buzzed. He pressed the gate cam button. A tall woman in a pressed navy blazer stood outside, holding a black leather portfolio and wearing the unmistakable badge of the Department of Family and Child Services. Jonathan's stomach sank. He opened the intercom mic. "Name? Patricia Langley," she said crisply. "Scheduled welfare visit, regarding minors residing at this address. Please open the gate." Jonathan considered his options for half a second, then hit the unlock button. When Patricia entered the foyer minutes later, she moved with purpose. Her eyes scanned everything, the minimalist decor, the lack of clutter, the way Jonathan didn't flinch when she stepped inside. "You have a beautiful home, Mr. Reed," she said flatly. "A bit cold, but tasteful." He gave a polite nod. "Would you like coffee?" "No, thank you. Let's get started." She sat on the edge of the couch, opening her portfolio. "You understand that an anonymous report was filed claiming you had taken 2 underage minors into your care without notifying the appropriate agencies. I've filed for emergency guardianship," he said. "My attorney is handling the rest." She didn't look up. "Filing isn't approval. I'm aware." Just then, a soft voice called from the stairs. "Mr. Jonathan?" It was Emily, her hair wild from sleep, wearing a pink hoodie 2 sizes too big. Jonathan turned. "Good morning, sweetheart. Did you sleep well?" Emily nodded shyly, then noticed Patricia. She froze. Patricia offered a practiced smile. "Hello there. I'm Patty. Can I talk to you for a minute?" Emily glanced at Jonathan, uncertain. "It's okay," he said. "You can talk to her. I'll be right here." Patricia pulled out a small plush toy from her bag, a trick social workers often used. "I just want to ask a few questions, okay? About you. About your sister." "Where's Anna?" Emily asked, fidgeting. Jonathan looked up the stairs. "Still sleeping, I think." Emily climbed down and slowly approached Patricia, sitting carefully on the far edge of the couch. Patricia kept her tone light. "Can you tell me your full name, sweetheart?" "Emily," she whispered. "Just Emily. No last name?" Emily shook her head. Patricia scribbled something. "Do you know how long you've been staying here with Mr. Reed?" Emily looked toward Jonathan, then back. 2 days, I think. And before that? Emily's fingers gripped the hem of her hoodie. We lived outside, and sometimes in a laundry room at the bus station. Patricia paused for just a moment. Did anyone ever hurt you there? No, Emily said, then hesitated. Sometimes people yelled. One man tried to grab Anna, but she kicked him. Jonathan flinched at that. Patricia jotted it down. Do you feel safe here? Patricia asked. Emily nodded. Has Mr. Reed ever raised his voice at you? Or touched you in a way that made you feel scared? No, Emily said quickly. He gave us soup. And pancakes. And he didn't make us sleep on the floor. Patricia smiled again, a little more genuine. Thank you, Emily. That's very helpful. Just then, a voice rang down the stairs, sharp, defensive. What's going on? Anna stood at the top of the staircase, arms crossed, already fully dressed. She looked between Jonathan and Patricia like she was preparing for battle. Patricia stood. You must be Anna. I don't talk to strangers, Anna said bluntly. Jonathan stepped in. It's okay. She's just here to check on you both. That's all. Anna came down slowly, never breaking eye contact with Patricia. You're from the system, she said flatly. Yes, I work with the Department of Family and Child Services. We don't like the system, Anna said. Patricia offered her a calm smile. I understand. But we're here to protect children. You don't, Anna shot back. You just move us around like furniture. You say things about safety and then send us to places that are worse. Patricia's face stayed neutral. You've been in the system before? Twice, and one of them had roaches. The other one locked the fridge at night. Jonathan stepped forward gently. Anna, no, she said, eyes hard. If you're going to take us away, just do it now. Don't smile and pretend you care. Patricia inhaled slowly and closed her folder. No one's taking you today, she said. But there are steps that have to be followed. Mr. Reed, I'll need access to the girl's sleeping space and confirmation of your emergency guardianship filing. I'll provide both, Jonathan said. She nodded. Expect a follow-up visit within the week. Possibly a psychological evaluation as well. It's standard. Of course. She walked to the door, then turned back. For what it's worth, she said to Anna. You're brave and smart. You deserve good things. Anna didn't respond. After she left, Jonathan closed the door, then turned to face the girls. Emily looked worried. Anna looked furious. We're not staying, are we? Emily asked. Jonathan crouched in front of them. I told you I'd fight for you. I meant that. You're not going anywhere unless a judge himself comes and drags you out of this house. Anna looked down. People promise things all the time. I know, he said. But I don't make promises I don't intend to keep. She looked up at him slowly, eyes hard but glassy. Then you better not screw this up. Jonathan nodded. I won't. Later that evening, after dinner, the girls watched cartoons in the living room. Jonathan stood by the hallway, watching them, not intruding, just being there. Anna glanced back at him once, then looked away, but she didn't move further from him, and that, for now, was enough. 3 days passed. The house, once echoing with silence and restrained wealth, now breathed with the quiet chaos of life's cereal bowls, half-filled and forgotten. Coloring pages taped to the fridge, mismatched socks in the laundry. Emily's laughter rang through the hallways like wind chimes. And Anna, though still cautious, had begun to linger closer when Jonathan sat in the living room reading. He had begun to hope the world outside might forget about them, even just for a while. But it didn't. On Thursday afternoon, while Jonathan was on a call in his home office, Rosa poked her head in. Sir, she said gently. You've got someone at the door. He sighed, rubbing his temples. Please tell me it's not more press. No, senor. It's a woman. Dressed very sharp. Says she's family. Jonathan frowned. Family? He walked to the foyer and opened the door. Rachel, his cousin, stood on the steps in a pristine white blazer, large sunglasses, and her signature red lipstick. A driver waited in a black town car behind her. Hello, Johnny, she said. Or should I say Daddy? He didn't smile. What do you want, Rachel? I came to see the girls. You've caused quite the stir in the boardroom. This isn't a press event. She removed her glasses. Her eyes, sharp as glass, sparkled with barely concealed judgment. You think you can just pull two random kids off the street and no one's going to notice? They're not random. Exactly. That's what people are afraid of. Jonathan folded his arms. You're here for damage control. I'm here to understand what you're doing before shareholders start making noise. And I figured, why not offer a hand? I'm hosting a small dinner tomorrow night. Come, bring the girls. Let them meet some of the people whose lives you might be affecting. He stared at her. You think they're a PR liability. I think you're a PR time bomb. But if you insist on playing hero, at least make it strategic. Jonathan exhaled slowly. You really want to meet them? I want the world to see that you're not spiraling into some midlife breakdown with orphans and grief. He looked past her toward the car, then back. Fine, tomorrow. But if anyone so much as looks at them wrong, I'll walk out. And I'll make sure the headlines say why. Rachel smiled. It's a deal. The next evening, Jonathan helped the girls get ready. Emily wore a soft yellow dress and shiny flats that she insisted were princess shoes. Anna, after much convincing, agreed to a navy blue sweater and jeans that weren't ripped at the knees. You look like a superhero's sidekick, Jonathan said, adjusting her collar. Anna snorted. I better get superpowers then. He looked at her. You already have them. The car ride to Rachel's home, a modern estate perched high above Sunset Boulevard, was quiet. The girls stared out the tinted windows, watching the world blur by. When they arrived, a valet opened the car door and stared a second too long at Anna and Emily. Jonathan noticed. Problem? He asked, voice cool. No, sir. The valet replied quickly. Inside, the atmosphere was polished and brittle white wine glasses, soft jazz, people who smiled with their teeth but not their eyes. Rachel greeted them in the foyer. You made it. And they're adorable. Anna stepped slightly behind Jonathan. Rachel leaned down to Emily. Hello, darling. Do you like cookies? We have some out on the patio. Emily looked up at Jonathan, who nodded. It's okay. Anna followed behind her sister like a shadow. Jonathan watched as they disappeared down the hallway with a server. Then Rachel handed him a drink. To family, she said. To boundaries, he answered, sipping. Later. Jonathan found the girls outside on the patio, sitting stiffly at a table surrounded by women in designer dresses and men with perfect hairlines. Emily was picking at a macaron. Anna wasn't eating. One of the women smiled and said sweetly, So where are your parents, sweetheart? Anna blinked. Gonna. Oh, the woman laughed nervously. Well, Jonathan's a very generous man, isn't he? Emily nodded. He gives us pancakes. Another woman chimed in. What a saint. Most people would just call social services. Jonathan stepped in then, his voice firm. Most people aren't responsible enough to be trusted with children. The women turned, startled. Rachel quickly approached. Jonathan, come now, don't start. Don't patronize them, he said. They're not here to be your feel-good accessories. Rachel hissed under her breath. Lower your voice. These people fund your next IPO. Jonathan knelt next to the girls. You doing okay? Anna nodded slowly, but her eyes told another story. Emily whispered, Can we go home? He stood. Yes, now. Rachel blocked the exit. Don't do this. You walk out now and they'll label you unhinged. Jonathan looked her in the eyes. Let them. Then he turned to the room. These girls aren't charity. They're not a press release. They're human. And if anyone here has a problem with that, I suggest you look in a mirror and figure out where your humanity went. He took Anna's hand in his right, Emily's in his left, and walked through the stunned crowd without another word. Back in the car, Anna finally spoke. Why do they all talk like that? Like they're pretending to be nice? Because they are, Jonathan said. And most of them don't know how to stop. Emily was quiet for a moment. Then, I liked the cookies. But not the lady who asked if we were from the shelter. You'll never go back to one, Jonathan said. Anna looked at him in the rearview mirror. Even if they try? He held her gaze. Especially if they try. The house felt warmer when they returned. Familiar, Safe. That night, as he passed their room, he heard quiet whispering. "She meant it, didn't she?" Emily said. "Yeah," Anna replied. "You think he'll stay?" There was a pause. "I don't know," Anna said. "But he keeps showing up." Jonathan leaned his head against the doorframe and closed his eyes. And for the first time in years, he didn't feel like a man with something to prove. He felt like a father. The sun dipped low behind the city skyline as Jonathan parked his Range Rover near the edge of Lincoln Park. The late afternoon light filtered through the rust-colored leaves, casting long shadows on the sidewalk. He turned off the engine and looked back at Anna and Emily, both buckled in the back seat. "You sure you're ready?" he asked. Emily nodded eagerly. "You said there were ducks." "There are," Jonathan smiled. "A whole little lake full of them." Anna wasn't smiling. Her arms were folded, and her eyes kept darting out the window. She hadn't said much all day. Ever since Jonathan had told them they'd be visiting a place from their past. She knew exactly where they were going. He opened the car door and helped Emily out. Anna stepped out on her own. Slow and cautious. Lincoln Park wasn't far from where they'd once slept in a cardboard shelter tucked behind a public restroom. Emily didn't remember much, but Anna did. She remembered the cold benches, the distant sounds of police sirens, the way their mother's voice had grown thinner each day before she vanished. Now, with her new shoes and warm hoodie, Anna felt like a ghost returning to the place she'd died and been reborn. They walked toward the lake, Emily skipping ahead, chasing leaves that swirled in the wind. Jonathan kept his pace with Anna. "She used to sit here," Anna murmured. Jonathan followed her gaze to a weather-worn bench under a crooked elm tree. "Your mom?" Anna nodded. "She'd wait until the soup truck came. That was the only warm food we got." They reached the bench. Jonathan sat. Anna stood. "I thought maybe seeing it again would help," he said. "Help with what?" "Your memories, your answers. You've been carrying all of this alone." Anna looked away, teeth clenched. "I don't want answers. I just want it to stop showing up in my dreams." Emily came running back, cheeks flushed. "There's a man feeding the ducks. He gave me bread too." Jonathan smiled. "Just don't fall in." She ran off again, arms stretched like wings. Anna finally sat beside him. She said she'd be right back. I believed her. I even counted to 100. Anna's voice was flat. "That was the last time I trusted anyone." Jonathan didn't speak. He didn't try to fix it with words. He just listened. "You're gonna leave too," Anna said quietly. He turned to her. "Why do you think that?" "Because everyone does." "I'm not everyone." "You keep saying that," she snapped. "But people always say nice things before they disappear. I'm not stupid." Jonathan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I don't think you're stupid. I think you're smart. Smarter than most adults I know. But I also think you're tired. Tired of being let down." Anna stared straight ahead, her jaw tight. "I can't promise I won't make mistakes," Jonathan continued. "But I can promise this: I won't leave because things get hard. I've seen hard. And it didn't scare me away from you." Anna glanced at him, just briefly. Then a small voice piped up behind them. "I like it better here now." Emily stood holding a leaf in each hand like trophies. "There's no yelling, no crying, just ducks." Jonathan smiled. "You want to come sit?" She nodded and plopped down on Jonathan's other side, leaning into his shoulder. He wrapped an arm around her instinctively. "We should go soon," Anna murmured. "Before it gets dark." Jonathan nodded. "One more thing." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small brown envelope. Anna stared at it. "What's that?" "I asked Douglas to run a search for any records tied to your birth. Hospital logs, shelters, anything." Anna didn't move. "I didn't open it," he said. "You can decide if we do." Emily looked between them. "What is it?" "Paper stuff," Anna said, eyes still on the envelope. "Maybe about Mama." Jonathan placed the envelope between them on the bench. It sat there like a loaded question. Anna reached for it, then pulled her hand back. "Not yet." "Okay," Jonathan said, picking it back up and slipping it away. "Whenever you're ready." "Oh." They drove home in silence, the city lights flickering on like stars. Emily fell asleep in the back seat. her head resting against the window. Anna stared out the opposite side, but her shoulders were more relaxed now. Less like armor, more like someone learning to breathe again. That night, as Jonathan carried a sleeping Emily to her bed, Anna followed behind, barefoot and quiet. He tucked Emily in, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. Anna lingered in the doorway. "I used to do that," she whispered. He turned. "Put her to bed?" Anna nodded. "Mama didn't always come back at night. So I'd hold Emily's hand until she fell asleep. Even when I was scared." Jonathan swallowed hard. "You protected her. Someone had to." He stepped closer. "You still can. But you don't have to do it alone anymore." Anna didn't answer. But when he gently offered his hand, she took it. For the first time, in the quiet of the hallway, with Emily breathing softly behind them and the city quiet outside, Jonathan held Anna's hand and realized something simple, profound, and terrifying. He was already their father, not by law, not by blood, but by heart, and that would have to be enough for now. The next morning was calm, almost too calm. The kind of quiet that settles just before a storm breaks the sky open. Jonathan stood by the window, sipping his coffee as the sunlight painted the garden in soft hues. But his mind wasn't on the roses or the fresh-cut lawn. It was on the envelope, the one still tucked in his drawer, unopened. The one that might hold answers Anna wasn't ready to face. Answers that could change everything. Downstairs, Emily was sitting at the kitchen island drawing a picture of a duck wearing sunglasses. Rosa had made waffles, and Emily's plate was already sticky with syrup. Anna sat beside her, arms crossed, not eating, watching Jonathan. She always watched. When the doorbell rang, Jonathan's stomach tightened. It was too early for deliveries, too quiet for press. He walked slowly to the door and checked the monitor. A man stood there, late 50s, unshaven, wearing a wrinkled jacket that hung too loose on his shoulders. There was something familiar in the way he shifted his weight from foot to foot, like he didn't belong anywhere for too long. Jonathan opened the door, cautious. "Can I help you?" The man looked up. His eyes were tired, but alert. "I'm looking for Anna and Emily." Jonathan's body stiffened. "Who are you?" The man hesitated. "Name's Leonard. I used to know their mother." Jonathan narrowed his eyes. "Used to? She's gone. Couple months now. Overdose." His voice cracked. Whether from truth or performance, Jonathan couldn't yet tell. "And how did you find us?" Leonard looked down. "Anna told me once that if anything happened, to try and find someone rich. Someone who could help." Jonathan didn't respond, but his silence invited more. "I stayed away," Leonard continued. "I wasn't their father. Just a man who was around. I fed them sometimes. Watched them when their mom was out looking for a fix. They weren't mine, but they weren't nobody either." Jonathan stepped forward, his voice calm but sharp. "So why now?" Leonard rubbed the back of his neck. "Because someone said you took them in. That they were living here. And I thought maybe I could see them." From inside, Emily's voice called, "Mr. Jonathan, is someone here?" Leonard's eyes flicked toward the doorway, full of something unspoken, regret or longing, or maybe just hunger. Jonathan stepped outside and closed the door behind him. "They're safe here," he said quietly. "They don't need ghosts from the past." "I'm not here to cause trouble," Leonard said quickly. "I got no place to be, no job. But those girls, they gave me a reason to show up for someone. Maybe I could help again. Clean. Watch them if you're busy." Jonathan looked at him, truly looked. This man was worn thin by the streets. His shoes had holes, his nails were dirty, his face too thin. But there was something in his eyes that wasn't fake. Maybe not trustworthy, but not cruel either. Still, Jonathan didn't flinch. "This isn't a charity. I know, I just thought maybe they'd want to see a familiar face. Even if it's not a good one." Jonathan was about to respond when the door cracked open behind him. Anna. She stood there, frozen, staring at Leonard. Her mouth opened, then closed. Leonard gave a small wave. Hey, kid. Anna didn't move. Emily peeked out from behind her, then blinked. Is that the man from the alley? Anna's voice came out hollow. Yeah. Jonathan turned to her. Do you want to talk to him? Anna looked at Leonard again. Then she shook her head. Leonard didn't push. That's fair, he said. Just wanted to know you're all right. Anna's voice was sharper now. You left when it got cold. You said you'd be back with blankets. Leonard's shoulders slumped. I know. You didn't come back. I was sick, hospital sick. Didn't mean to disappear. Anna's hands clenched into fists. We thought you were dead. I'm sorry, kid. I really am. Jonathan turned to Anna. We can ask him to leave. Now. Anna didn't respond for a long beat. Then, let him eat something. Jonathan blinked. You sure? She nodded once. But only food. No talking. Jonathan turned back to Leonard. Come in. Wipe your shoes. Leonard stepped inside slowly, like a man crossing a threshold into a life he never imagined. At the table, Emily handed him a waffle like she was giving away gold. Leonard took it with both hands. Rosa hovered nearby, suspicious. Jonathan sat across the room, arms folded, watching. Leonard didn't say much. He didn't look around the mansion like it was magic. He just ate slowly, almost respectfully, eyes mostly on his plate. Anna didn't touch her food. She sat across from him, arms crossed, watching like a guard dog. After 10 minutes, she stood. You can go now. Leonard looked up. I mean it, Anna. I never forgot about you. She didn't answer. Jonathan stood. Come on. At the door, Leonard paused. You're doing right by them. I intend to, Jonathan replied. If you ever need someone to take out trash, or just keep an eye on things. I'm not good for much. But I don't drink anymore. Not since I lost Mary. Jonathan considered for a moment. Then, give me your number. A real one. Leonard scribbled it on the back of a grocery receipt and handed it over. As the door closed behind him, Jonathan turned to find Anna standing in the hallway. Arms still crossed, but something in her face had changed. Less rage, more weight. You didn't have to let him in, she said. I didn't. You did. She nodded once, then walked away. That night, Jonathan opened the drawer and pulled out the envelope. He didn't open it, but he didn't put it back either. He left it on the kitchen table, where Anna could see it in the morning, because the truth, like healing, had to come on its own time. The house was quiet again. But this time, it wasn't the silence of fear or distance. It was the pause of something waiting to happen. Morning light spilled over the kitchen counter, catching the edge of the brown envelope that sat in the center of the table like a dare. Anna spotted it the moment she walked in. Jonathan was standing by the sink, dressed for the day, sipping his usual black coffee. Emily trailed behind her, rubbing sleep from her eyes and mumbling about dreams filled with waffles and talking ducks. But Anna's eyes were locked on the envelope. You left it out on purpose, she said. Jonathan turned slightly. I did. She didn't sit. She didn't even touch it. Just stared at it like it might burn her. You think knowing changes something? I think it already has, he said. Even not knowing has shaped you. She narrowed her eyes. And you're so sure the truth will make it better? No, he said honestly. But I'm sure hiding from it won't. There was a long pause. Then, slowly, Anna reached out and picked up the envelope. She turned it over in her hands, her fingers hovering over the flap. Emily stood on her tiptoes, trying to peek. What's in there? Jonathan knelt beside her. Stuff about when she and your mom were in the hospital. Maybe even a birth certificate. Emily's eyes went wide. Like a real one? With names? Anna exhaled. Then, without another word, she opened the envelope. 3 sheets of paper. A birth record. A social worker's intake form. A faded photo clipped to the corner. A woman young, tired, beautiful, in a haunted way, holding a baby wrapped in a threadbare hospital blanket. Anna didn't blink. Her fingers gripped the edges so tightly the paper trembled. The name listed was Annalise Renee Walker. Father, unknown. Next of kin, none. Jonathan watched her face. Do you remember her looking like that? No, Anna said. Her voice was steady, but low. She didn't smile like that. Not after Emily was born. She handed the photo to Jonathan, then unfolded the intake form. It was a social services document from when Anna was barely 3. A note at the bottom caught her attention. Mother declined shelter services. Requested release. Cited ability to provide housing. Anna scoffed. She lied. She never had housing. She had a boyfriend with a mattress in a garage. Emily was quiet. So, does that mean we're really nobodies? Jonathan stood, placing a hand gently on both of their shoulders. It means no one took care of you the way you deserved, but that doesn't mean you're nobodies. Anna looked at him, eyes narrowing. You think you're going to change that? I already have, he said quietly. She didn't argue, just folded the papers back up and slid them into the envelope again. I want to keep it, she said, not because I want to remember her, but because I want to remember what not to be. Jonathan nodded. That's your right. Later that afternoon, a package arrived. Not one from Amazon or a delivery service. It was hand-delivered by Douglas himself, Jonathan's private attorney. A man built like an oak tree with a face that hadn't smiled since the Bush administration. I have the papers, he said, stepping into the study. Emergency guardianship is approved. The next step is permanent custody. We'll need their consent, considering Anna's age. Jonathan nodded. Let's not rush that. I want it to be their decision. Douglas raised an eyebrow. You're the first billionaire I've ever met who thinks consent matters more than control. Jonathan smirked. Then you need better clients. That evening, after dinner, Jonathan brought it up. Not as an announcement. As a conversation, I've been granted temporary guardianship, he said, folding his hands on the table. Which means the state recognizes that I'm responsible for you. But there's a next step. And it only happens if you agree. Emily blinked. Like adoption? Not exactly yet, he said gently. More like choosing to stay, legally. Anna didn't answer. She just looked at her plate. There's no pressure, Jonathan continued. You can say no. You can wait. You can ask for time. I'll still be here either way. Finally Anna spoke. What happens if we say yes? Then you become part of this family, permanently, and I become accountable for you in every way. Like a real dad. He looked her in the eyes. In every way that matters. Emily smiled. Can we get a dog? Jonathan laughed. That's the first question? Dogs stay, Emily said simply. They don't leave. Anna surprised him then. She laughed, just once, a sharp, soft sound like glass cracking. I'm not promising I'll stay forever, she said. I don't know what forever feels like yet. Jonathan nodded. That's fair, but if you're serious, I'll think about it. That's all I ask. That night, while Emily drifted off to sleep beside her stuffed animals, Anna stood in the hallway staring at the photo again. The woman in it looked too young to be her mother. Too fragile, like a girl pretending to be a grown-up. Anna folded the photo and slid it under her pillow, not because she missed her, but because she needed to remember where she started. The next morning, Emily found her drawing something on the back of a cereal box. What's that? She asked. A dog, Anna said. We're gonna need one with big ears. That way we can tell secrets. Emily giggled and nodded. Like what kind of secrets? Anna looked out the window, toward the yard where Jonathan was reading the paper on the porch. Like the kind you only tell to people who stay. The morning air was crisp, filled with the scent of damp earth and distant traffic. Jonathan sat on the porch with a cup of coffee balanced on his knee, reading headlines that felt far away now. Once, these stories had been his world: mergers, takeovers, executive firings. Now, they barely moved the needle. Inside, he heard the soft patter of feet. Emily, dragging her blanket like a cape, wandered out with bed hair and sleepy eyes. Mr. Jonathan, she mumbled. There's a man in the driveway. He looked up, alert. What? She pointed with a tiny hand. By the trash bins. Jonathan stood quickly, set his cup down, and moved toward the side yard where the driveway curved behind the house. A tall figure leaned against the gate, wearing a hoodie and sunglasses. arms crossed like he had nowhere to be. Jonathan approached cautiously. "Can I help you?" The man turned. "Jonathan Reed?" "Yes. The man removed his glasses. His face was familiar. Younger than Leonard, but rough around the edges. Thin beard, tired eyes, a scar on his cheek. "I'm not here to start trouble," the man said. "But I think we need to talk." "About Anna and Emily." Jonathan's posture shifted. "Who are you?" The man hesitated. "Name's Carl. I was with Mary, their mom, for a couple years. I raised Emily for the first 6 months after she was born." Jonathan didn't respond. He didn't move, either. "I know I've got no legal standing," Carl continued, "and I ain't looking for custody. But I heard they're safe now. With you. I thought maybe I could see them." "Who told you they were here?" "Leonard." Carl scratched the back of his neck. "He said you might listen." Jonathan studied him. "What do you want?" Carl took a breath. "Closure. Maybe a photo. I don't know. Something to remind me I didn't completely disappear from their lives." Jonathan's jaw tightened. The last thing the girls needed was more ghosts rising from old shadows. Anna's voice rang out behind him. "Why are you talking to him?" Jonathan turned. Anna stood barefoot on the gravel, her arms crossed, face expressionless. But her eyes, those told another story. Wariness. Recognition. Maybe even a flicker of something that looked like resentment. Carl gave a weak wave. "Hey, kiddo." Anna didn't move. "You said you'd come back. You never did." "I know," Carl said softly. "I messed up. You took Mama's money. You left us with Leonard and never showed again." Carl looked down. "I was scared." "That's not an excuse," Anna snapped. "No," he agreed. "It's not." Jonathan looked between them. "Do you want him to leave?" Anna didn't answer immediately. Her fingers dug into her palms. Then, slowly, she said, "Let him talk." "One time." Carl's eyes widened, surprised. "Thanks." They sat in the backyard. Jonathan kept a watchful eye as Carl sat on the opposite bench, keeping space between himself and the girls. Emily stayed quiet, unsure, clutching a juice box with both hands. "I'm not going to lie to you," Carl said. "I wasn't a good man back then. I drank. I left when things got rough. But I did love you both. I just didn't know how to be anything better than what I'd seen growing up." Anna stared at him. "So why now?" Carl looked over at Emily. "Because I saw a picture, and I remembered this little baby who used to sleep on my chest every night. I wanted to believe that maybe I didn't screw up everything." Emily whispered. "I don't remember you. I don't expect you to," Carl replied gently. "You were just a baby, but I remember you." Anna's voice cracked. "Do you want to take us away?" Carl shook his head. "Number, I couldn't give you a life like this. I just wanted to see you happy. And maybe ask if I could leave you something." Jonathan frowned. "Like what?" Carl reached into his coat and pulled out a small, worn notebook. He handed it to Anna. She flipped it open. It was filled with messy, slanted handwriting. Sketches. Letters. Journal entries addressed to the girls. "I wrote about you," Carl said. "Even when I was gone, I kept thinking about what I'd say if I ever saw you again." Anna flipped through the pages slowly. Her eyes scanned the faded ink. Her fingers trembling. "Do you mean it?" she asked. "Every word," Carl said. Jonathan watched closely, ready to step in. But Anna didn't retreat. She didn't crumble. She just closed the notebook and said, "Okay, you can go now." Carl stood, silent for a moment. "Take care of each other." Then he looked at Jonathan. "They're better with you than they ever were with me." He left without another word. That night, after dinner, Anna sat by the fireplace with the notebook on her lap. Emily curled beside her, head on her shoulder. "Do you believe him?" Emily asked. Anna stared into the flames. "I believe he wanted to be good. But wanting and doing aren't the same." Jonathan stood in the doorway, unseen. Listening. He didn't want to interrupt whatever this was. Grieving. Healing. Reckoning. He let it happen quietly. Emily looked up. Does that mean we still have family? Anna reached for her hand. Maybe not the kind we came from, but maybe the kind we make now. Later, when everyone was asleep, Jonathan sat at his desk with a legal document in front of him. Permanent guardianship application. All it needed was Anna's signature. He didn't push, he wouldn't. But the next morning, he found the form on his desk. Signed, Anna had written her name in strong, deliberate letters, and beneath it, a note in her sharp block handwriting. If you're staying, so am I. The sun was barely up when Jonathan's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. He poured his coffee, took a long sip, and glanced at the screen. 3 missed calls from Douglas and 1 urgent text. Turn on channel 7 now. Jonathan grabbed the remote and flipped the television on. A local morning news anchor was mid-sentence, her tone sharp, polished, and rehearsed. And while the billionaire philanthropist Jonathan Reed has publicly denied rumors of adopting 2 homeless girls from Skid Row, anonymous sources have now surfaced claiming he bypassed standard procedures to gain guardianship. The question remains, was this a generous act of charity or something more? Questionable. A split screen showed a blurred image of Anna and Emily, taken from a distance. They were walking into a building, Jonathan's office. He realized, holding his hands, their faces visible enough to recognize. Jonathan's stomach dropped. Rosa walked in with a towel over her shoulder. Senor, are they talking about the girls? He nodded slowly, lips pressed together. Looks like someone's trying to turn this into a scandal. The camera cut to a pre-recorded interview. A well-dressed woman sat in a studio. The chyron under her name read, Rachel Whitmore, Reed family representative. Jonathan has always been impulsive, Rachel said with a tight smile. I'm not saying he's not well-intentioned, but there are protocols for a reason. Children, especially ones with trauma, need more than just good intentions. They need professionals. Jonathan turned off the television, breathing hard. So this was how Rachel planned to fight back publicly, question his judgment under the guise of concern. She wasn't just worried about the company's image. She was preparing her move. By the time the girls came down for breakfast, he had already made 3 calls. Douglas, PR, a private investigator. But nothing prepared him for the look on Anna's face when she saw her own photo on the tablet Rosa was holding. What is that? She asked sharply. Rosa quickly tried to turn it off, but it was too late. Emily squinted at the image. That's us? Anna's mouth tightened. They're putting us on the news? Jonathan crouched beside her. It's not okay. I didn't give permission for this, and I'm already on it. Anna stepped back, her voice rising. Why would they even care? We're not celebrities. We're just us. Because I've been in the public eye for years, Jonathan said gently, and sometimes the people who want to hurt me go after the ones close to me. Emily's eyes welled up. Are we in trouble? No, he said firmly. You haven't done anything wrong. None of this is your fault. Anna looked at him, eyes narrowed. What if they take us away? Jonathan stood, jaw tight. They won't, but inside, he wasn't so sure. That afternoon, Douglas arrived with a briefcase and a plan. They've already filed a motion to review your guardianship status, he said grimly. Rachel used her influence to raise questions about the legitimacy of the emergency court order. We've got a hearing in 4 days. Jonathan paced the study. She's doing this to protect the company, to protect herself. She's doing this because you made her feel small, Douglas replied. And because she underestimates you. What are our odds? Douglas sighed. With the right witnesses, we can win. But you'll need character testimony. Evidence of the girl's well-being since being in your care, school enrollment, therapy sessions, even statements from neighbors. Jonathan nodded slowly. Then let's give them everything. Oh, that night, he sat with the girls at the kitchen table. Emily colored quietly. Anna pushed her food around. I want to tell you something, Jonathan said. They're trying to question whether I'm fit to keep you, whether I followed the rules. Anna froze. So we might get taken away? No, he said. We're going to fight this, but I need your help. Emily looked up. Like superheroes? Exactly. Anna swallowed. What do we have to do? Just be honest. About how things have been. About how you feel here. Anna nodded. We can do that. The next day, they visited Dr. Morales, the therapist Jonathan had arranged for the girls weeks earlier. She had been seeing them in private sessions, slowly helping Ana unpack years of buried memories. "I'll write a statement," Dr. Morales said after the session. "I've seen trauma, Jonathan, but I've also seen healing. And those girls, especially Ana, are beginning to trust again. I'm not letting a bureaucrat rip that away." Jonathan felt the first flicker of hope, but it didn't last long. That evening, a letter arrived by courier. A subpoena demanding Leonard and Carl both testify in the hearing. Jonathan stared at the paper, furious. "They're dragging every ghost out of the past," he muttered. Rosa read the name over his shoulder. "They want to paint the girls like broken things. Like problems." "Yeah," he said, "and paint me like the fool who picked them up off the street without thinking." He folded the letter and shoved it into his desk. But that night, as he tucked Emily into bed and turned out her light, Ana stepped into his study, still in her hoodie, holding something in her hands. It was the notebook Carl had left. "They can ask him questions," she said. "He won't lie for us, but he won't lie about us either." Jonathan looked at her. "You trust him that much?" "No," Ana said. "But I trust the truth. And I trust you to fight for it." He stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "You're braver than half the people I've met in boardrooms." Ana shrugged. They've never had to survive in alleys. The hearing was 4 days away. But Jonathan knew the real trial had already begun, not just in court, but in the hearts of 2 little girls who were finally learning what it meant to be chosen. And he would not let them down. The courthouse stood tall and gray like a silent monument to a system that often forgot the people it was supposed to protect. Jonathan adjusted his tie as he stepped out of the car, his jaw set, his eyes focused. Beside him, Ana walked with slow, guarded steps. She wore a simple dress and her favorite hoodie over it. Emily clutched Rosa's hand tightly, her small pink backpack bouncing against her back. Inside the courthouse, the air felt sterile, like hope had been scrubbed out along with the dust. Reporters loitered near the entrance, whispering and snapping photos. Security ushered them through quickly. But Ana didn't miss the way some of the cameras lingered on her. She ducked her head. Douglas was waiting in the hallway with a file thick enough to choke a printer. "They've filed a motion to challenge the guardianship based on procedural irregularities," he said. "The judge is conservative, likes order, rules, hierarchy." Jonathan gave a sharp nod. "Then let's show him I followed the rules better than they ever did." Emily tugged at Ana's sleeve. "Why do we have to be here?" Ana crouched beside her. "Because people don't always trust what they don't understand. So we're here to help them understand." "Will they be mean?" Ana looked up at Jonathan, who knelt next to them both. "Some might. But I'll be here. Every second. You just be you." They entered the courtroom quietly. A hushed murmur spread through the audience like a ripple in still water. Jonathan could feel eyes on him from all directions. Judges, attorneys, press, strangers. Rachel Whitmore sat at the front with her legal team, every inch of her polished and prepared. She didn't look at him. That would have given him too much dignity. The judge, an older man with silver hair and wire-rimmed glasses, called the session to order. Rachel stood first. "Your Honor, we are here today not to question Mr. Reed's character, but to ensure that proper procedures were followed in placing 2 vulnerable children under his guardianship. It is our concern that due process was bypassed, and that the girls may be emotionally influenced by the luxurious lifestyle they've been introduced to rather than their best interests being truly served." Jonathan didn't flinch, but Ana, sitting beside him, clenched her fists. Douglas rose smoothly. "Your Honor, we have medical, psychological, and academic documentation showing the children's rapid improvement under Mr. Reed's care. We also have statements from their therapist, former social workers, and the girls themselves who wish to remain in Mr. Reed's custody." The judge nodded. "Very well. Let's hear from the therapist first." Dr. Morales took the stand. Calm, composed, she explained Ana's initial distrust, Emily's nightmares, and how both girls had shown remarkable emotional recovery since being placed with Jonathan. "The trauma these girls experienced is not easily undone," she said firmly. "But for the first time, they have consistency, affection, and stability. Removing them now would cause significant psychological harm. Rachel tried to challenge her credentials, but the judge cut her off. "Thank you, doctor. That's enough." "Oh." Next, the judge asked for a statement from one of the girls. Jonathan turned to Anna. "You don't have to do this." Anna stood anyway. "I want to." She walked slowly to the stand. She didn't look at Rachel. She looked at the judge. "My name is Anna Walker," she began. "I don't remember the first time I slept on the ground, but I remember the last. It was the night before we met Mr. Reed. Me and my sister were cold. We asked for food. We got yelled at, dragged away, treated like garbage. Oh," she paused, swallowing hard. "And then he stopped them. He fed us. He listened. He didn't treat us like a charity project. He just stayed. Every day after that, he stayed. Even when I yelled at him. Even when I told him I didn't need anyone." Rachel interjected. "Miss Walker, are you aware that your emotions may be influenced by—" The judge raised a hand. "Let her finish." Anna looked straight ahead. "My mom left. My old life taught me that people either hurt you or forget you. But Mr. Reed taught me something new. He taught me that staying is a choice. And he chose us." There was a quiet sniffle from the back. Emily was crying softly into Rosa's shoulder. Anna stepped down. The courtroom was silent. Rachel looked unsettled. She called Leonard to the stand next. He sat stiffly, hair combed for the first time in weeks. "I used to know their mom," he said. "And yeah, I made mistakes. But I saw those kids fight to survive every single day. When Jonathan Reed took them in, it was the first time I saw them smile without flinching." Rachel asked, "Do you believe Mr. Reed is fit to raise children with such trauma?" Leonard looked at Jonathan. "He's more fit than half the parents I've ever known, including their own." The final witness was Carl. He was nervous, but honest. "I ran," he admitted, "but I've watched from a distance. What he's giving them. It's more than money. It's safety, it's dignity, and it's love." "Oh." The judge called for a recess. Jonathan stepped outside with the girls while Douglas stayed inside to wrap paperwork. Anna sat on a bench beside him, shoulders tense. "Do you think we'll lose?" Jonathan placed a hand on hers. "Even if the court takes you away?" "I'll keep fighting. I'll never stop." She nodded once. Then, in a rare moment of softness, leaned her head against his shoulder. "You better not." When they were called back in, the courtroom waited in stillness. The judge shuffled some papers, then looked up. "This court recognizes the legality and validity of Mr. Jonathan Reed's guardianship," he announced. "Furthermore, based on compelling testimony and documentation, I hereby grant full and permanent custody of Anna and Emily Walker to Mr. Reed." Gasps rippled through the room. Emily clapped and hugged Rosa. Anna didn't move, just stared ahead like she couldn't believe it. Jonathan exhaled. For the first time in weeks, he let relief wash over him. After the courtroom emptied, Anna walked up to the judge's bench. "Thank you," she said. The judge smiled gently. "You earned this, young lady. Not with your story, but with your strength." Outside, the air smelled like spring again. Jonathan turned to Anna and Emily. "So, dog shelter this weekend?" Anna cracked a rare, small grin. "Only if I get to pick the name." Jonathan raised an eyebrow. "Deal." "That." And as they walked down the courthouse steps, hand in hand, the world didn't feel so broken anymore. Not because everything was perfect, but because, for the first time in their lives, Anna and Emily knew. They were home. 2 days after the court ruling, the family made good on their promise. The dog shelter sat just outside the city limits, a long, low building surrounded by a fenced-in yard that echoed with barks, yelps, and wagging tails. The minute they pulled into the gravel lot, Emily bounced in her seat, face pressed against the window. "They're barking for us," she squealed. "They know we're coming." Anna, seated beside her, smiled barely, but there was something soft in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Jonathan turned off the engine and looked back at the girls. "Now remember," he said, "we're going in for one. Just one. Got it? One each?" Emily asked, eyes wide with hope. "One in total," he said firmly. "One dog, not a pack." They stepped into the shelter lobby, where the smell of disinfectant mixed with damp fur. A volunteer behind the desk greeted them with a warm smile. "Welcome. Looking to adopt?" "Yes," Jonathan said. "We were hoping to meet a few today." The woman nodded. "We've got some great dogs waiting for homes. What kind are you looking for?" "One with big ears," Emily chimed in. "For secrets," Anna added. "And one who doesn't care if you've had a bad day." The volunteer's smile deepened. "I think I've got just the one." They followed her down a row of kennels where tails wagged and paws scratched at metal gates. The barking rose and fell as they passed, until they reached the last kennel on the right. Inside sat a medium-sized mutt, brown and black, with a white patch on his chest. He was missing one eye, and his left ear drooped awkwardly. But he sat calmly, watching them. Not barking, just watching. "This is Radar," the volunteer said. "Found abandoned near the freeway. Took a while to get him to trust us. But he's good with kids. Quiet. Gentle." Emily crouched beside the gate. "Hi, Radar." The dog inched closer. His nose twitched. Anna didn't speak. She just stared at him. He stared back. After a moment, she knelt too. "He doesn't look scared," she said. "He looks like he's just waiting." The volunteer opened the gate slowly. Radar walked out, not excited, not hesitant, just steady. He sniffed Emily's hand, then turned to Anna and pressed his head gently against her knee. Anna froze. Then, slowly, she reached out and touched his fur. "He's kind of ugly," she murmured. Jonathan raised an eyebrow. "That's your pick?" Anna looked up. "He's not trying to impress anyone. He just is. And that's enough." Jonathan nodded. "Then he's ours." They signed the papers, took a family photo with Radar, and loaded him gently into the car. The entire way home, Radar sat between the girls, head on Anna's lap, one eye closed, tail thumping softly. Back at the house, Rosa met them at the door, crossing herself dramatically. "You brought a wolf into the house?" "He's missing an eye," Jonathan explained. "He's got heart," Emily said. "And secrets," Anna added. Rosa shook her head but smiled. "If he pees on my rug, I'm blaming you." That night, after dinner, they all sat on the living room floor. Emily gave Radar a tour of the house, including important spots like the snack cabinet and the timeout chair. Jonathan watched from the couch, something warm rising in his chest. He looked over at Anna, who was brushing Radar's fur with an old comb Rosa found. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "He doesn't talk much, but I think he listens. Like someone else I know," Jonathan said. Anna smiled, just a little. "Do you think he had a family before?" "Maybe," Jonathan replied. "Maybe they lost him. Maybe they didn't take care of him, but he's got one now." "You say that like it's simple." "Sometimes it is," he said. "You just stay. And love shows up." Later, when the girls had gone to bed and the house had settled into its quiet rhythm, Jonathan sat by the fireplace, a glass of water in hand. Radar lay beside his chair, tail occasionally tapping the floor. He reached down, scratching behind the dog's ear. "They needed you more than I realized," he said quietly. Radar didn't respond, of course, but Jonathan could have sworn the dog gave a long, soft sigh like he understood everything without needing a single word. Upstairs, Anna lay awake, the small notebook Carl had given her open on the pillow. She flipped to a page she hadn't read before. A drawing of a dog. Below it, scrawled in messy handwriting, "Someday I'll be better, I'll come back. And we'll get a dog. One with ears so big he can hear the stuff we can't say." Anna stared at the page, then she looked over at Radar, curled up at the foot of her bed. "You made it," she whispered, "even if he didn't." She closed the notebook, slid it back under her pillow, and lay back, finally letting her eyes drift shut. Down the hall, Emily whispered secrets into Radar's other ear, telling him about waffles and dreams and the time she thought a bird was a ghost. And Radar listened. Because that's what family did now. They stayed. and they listened. Even when the words were hard, especially then. The morning sun filtered through the curtains in golden streaks, casting soft shadows on the hardwood floors. Anna stirred awake first, blinking against the light. She stretched slowly, listening to the muffled sounds of Rosa humming in the kitchen downstairs. The rhythmic clink of a pan against the stovetop. The comforting scent of scrambled eggs and toasted sourdough floated up the stairs. Radar, curled at her feet, raised his head and gave her a slow, deliberate wag of his tail. "You're still here," she whispered, scratching the top of his head. "Good." Down the hall, Emily was already talking to herself, no surprise. By the time Anna wandered into the kitchen, both Emily and Jonathan were at the table. Her sister animatedly explaining a dream involving a flying sandwich and a talking owl. Jonathan sipped his coffee, nodding patiently. Rosa placed a plate of pancakes in front of Emily with a soft, "Mija, eat," before turning to Anna with her usual stern affection. "Sit, you look like a noodle." As they sat and ate, Jonathan glanced at his phone and frowned. "I have to stop by the office later. Quick meeting with board members." Rachel's been quiet, which usually means she's planning something. Anna eyed him. "Want us to come?" He smiled. "Nah, I'll be in and out," but he hesitated. "There's something I need your help with today." Anna raised an eyebrow. "What kind of help?" "Something from your past," he said gently. "A detective I hired found a woman. Says she used to know your mother. She might know more about what happened after you and Emily were born." Anna stilled. Emily looked between them, mouth full of syrup. "Are we going to see her?" Anna asked. "Only if you want to," Jonathan replied. "It's your choice." She hesitated. "I want to know," she finally said, "but if she's like Leonard, I'm not holding back." "Understood," Jonathan said. "We'll go after breakfast." The woman's name was Lorraine Price. She lived in a modest neighborhood on the outskirts of town, in a weather-beaten one-story house with a sagging porch and wind chimes that clinked in the breeze like broken glass. As they approached, Anna felt her chest tighten. The street looked familiar, not the details, but the air of it, like somewhere she'd been before everything fell apart. Lorraine opened the door slowly, peering out with wary eyes. She was in her 60s, wearing a faded housecoat and slippers, her gray hair pulled into a loose bun. "You must be Anna," she said softly. "You look like her." Anna didn't respond. She just stepped inside. The living room smelled like lavender and old books. Dust floated in the sunlight like tiny memories. Lorraine motioned for them to sit. "Your mother, Mary," she began, folding her hands in her lap, "was one of the brightest girls I knew, but she had demons. A lot of them." Anna stared at her. "You knew her when she was pregnant?" Lorraine nodded. "I was her neighbor. We used to work together at the diner down on 4th Street. She was already pregnant when she moved in." "No family," said the father, ran off. "Did she want us?" Emily asked, her voice barely audible. Lorraine hesitated. "She was scared. She talked about leaving all the time, running away. But when she had you, Anna, she changed. For a while, she talked to you like you were her whole world." Anna gritted her teeth. "So what happened?" Lorraine sighed. "She met Leonard, said he'd take care of you both. But I didn't trust him. He had a temper. And he hated questions. Why didn't you call someone?" Anna snapped. Lorraine's eyes welled up. "I should have. But back then, no one listened to women like me. And your mom?" She stopped coming around. Wouldn't answer the door. One night, I saw her leave with a bag. She looked empty. Emily leaned into Anna. "She left us. She thought Leonard would feed you," Lorraine said. "She thought she'd come back with money, with a job, but she never did." Anna stood suddenly, her hands balled into fists. "So everyone just watched us disappear?" Lorraine looked down. "I've thought about that day every week for 12 years. Anna's voice cracked. "Do you know where she went?" "No," Lorraine whispered, "but someone came looking for her a few months later. A man." tall. Looked like trouble. Said he had business with her. Jonathan stepped forward. Did he give a name? Marcus, Lorraine said. Said he knew she owed people. I never saw him again. Jonathan exchanged a look with Anna. We'll find him. Anna didn't say anything. She turned and walked out of the house, radar at her heels. Jonathan followed, but gave her space. Back in the car, the ride was silent. Emily eventually drifted to sleep, head on Anna's shoulder. Anna stared out the window, eyes distant. I don't know if I'm mad at her, she said finally. I just feel tired. That's allowed, Jonathan said. You don't have to forgive her. You just have to decide what comes next. Anna nodded slowly. Then I want to find Marcus. We will. That night, Jonathan stayed up late in the study. He called the investigator again. Find me Marcus. Tall, early 40s, connected to Mary Walker, possibly dangerous. The man on the other end whistled. You think he's still out there? If he's not, Jonathan said coldly. I want to know who he worked for. Upstairs. Anna lay awake. Radar's breath steady at her side. She replayed Lorraine's words over and over. Pieces were starting to fall into place. But the more she knew, the heavier the puzzle became. Still, for the first time in years, she didn't feel completely alone in the search. She had a voice now, a home, and a man who refused to give up on her. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to carry her through what came next. 3 days after their visit to Lorraine's house, the first lead came in. Jonathan was reviewing quarterly reports in his study when the phone buzzed with a text from his private investigator, Nolan. Got a hit. Guy named Marcus Dillard. Long rap sheet. Last known address South LA. Sending file now. Jonathan opened the file. Mugshots. Assault. Drug possession. Fraud. A man whose eyes never changed across the years, always cold, always calculating. Downstairs, Anna sat on the living room floor with Emily and Radar, sorting puzzle pieces. She wasn't speaking much since Lorraine, just moving slower, quieter, like her brain was sprinting while her mouth refused to join. Jonathan walked in, holding his phone loosely. Anna, we found Marcus. Her eyes shot up. Emily looked confused. The man who knew Mom? The one Lorraine mentioned. Jonathan said. I want to talk to him, Anna said quickly. I need to. Jonathan hesitated. He's dangerous, Anna. This isn't like visiting Lorraine. We don't know what he's involved in now. I'm not asking to go alone, she said. I'm asking to go with you. Jonathan studied her. She was only 6 months removed from sleeping in alleyways, but her posture had the gravity of someone 10 years older. Okay, he finally said. We'll do it on my terms, public place, daylight, and you let me lead the conversation. Deal. They arranged the meeting for a Sunday afternoon at a rundown cafe in Inglewood, near the bus terminal. Jonathan had Nolan sit nearby, pretending to read the paper, just in case things turned sideways. Anna wore her hoodie, her expression unreadable as she sat across from the man who might hold the missing pieces of her mother's story. Marcus Dillard walked in like he owned the place, cheap sunglasses, gold chain, a limp in his left leg. He scanned the cafe, spotted Jonathan and Anna, and smirked. Well, he drawled, sliding into the booth. Didn't think the rich boy would bring the kid. Jonathan didn't rise to it. We want answers, that's all. Marcus looked at Anna. You got her eyes, you know that? Mary always had those sharp eyes. Like she was already bored of whatever you were saying. Anna didn't blink. Did you know her well? Well enough, Marcus said, leaning back. She owed people. Got herself into trouble, then tried to disappear. Disappeared where? Jonathan asked. Marcus snorted. That's the million-dollar question. She left town after she got mixed up with some folks she shouldn't have. Told me she had 2 kids, but didn't say where they were. Said she needed out. And you let her go? Anna asked. Marcus looked annoyed. I'm not a good guy, kid, but even I know when someone's about to drown. She was scared. Real scared. Talking about someone watching her, said she made a mistake, got involved with the wrong name. Name? Jonathan asked. She say who? Marcus tapped the table twice. She said she saw something she shouldn't have, and that if she talked, she'd end up in a ditch. You want a name? You ask the people who ran the shelter off Hoover Street. That's where she was hiding before she vanished. Anna's mouth twitched. So you helped her? I gave her a ride. That's all, Marcus said. After that, I never saw her again. Jonathan leaned in. You're not lying? Marcus smirked. What do I get for telling the truth? Nothing, Jonathan said. But you'll regret lying. Marcus raised both hands. Fine. Truth. All of it. Now, if you're done playing detectives, I've got places to be. They let him walk. Nolan followed from a distance, just long enough to see that Marcus returned to a crumbling apartment building and didn't leave again. Back in the car, Anna stared out the window. She was trying to protect us. Seems that way, Jonathan said. But from what? Something big, Anna murmured. Something she didn't trust the cops with. Something she thought Leonard might be part of. That night, while Emily slept curled up next to Radar, Anna sat on the porch wrapped in a blanket. Jonathan joined her with 2 mugs of tea. You did well today, he said. You stayed calm. I didn't feel calm, she replied. I felt like my bones were shaking. That's still courage, he said. Doing it anyway, she looked at him. Do you think she's alive? Jonathan was quiet for a long time. I don't know. But I know we're closer than we were yesterday. Anna nodded slowly. I just want the truth. Even if it hurts. We'll find it, he promised. The next morning, Jonathan received a call from a former city worker who'd once run intake at the Hoover Street shelter. Mary Walker? The woman asked. Yeah, I remember her. Sweet girl, but paranoid, always looking over her shoulder. Do you know what happened to her? She left one night. Left a note saying she couldn't stay. Said she had to disappear to keep her girls safe. She never came back. Jonathan's voice dropped. Do you still have the note? No, the woman said. But I remember the last line. It said, if anything happens to me, tell them I loved them more than anything. Even more than staying safe. That night, Jonathan told Anna and Emily. They sat silently, digesting it like something too big to chew. Do you think she left clues? Anna asked. Like a trail? Jonathan nodded. We follow Marcus's lead. We talk to the shelter. We go back to the places she was. Emily looked up. And if she's gone? Anna didn't hesitate. Then we tell her story. All of it. So no one ever forgets again. And in the quiet that followed, Jonathan knew. They were no longer just searching for a person. They were chasing the truth. And the truth, no matter how buried, was beginning to stir. It took only 2 days to set up a visit to the now-defunct shelter off Hoover Street. The building was abandoned, shut down 5 years ago due to funding cuts and a string of code violations. Boarded windows, graffiti-tagged walls, and rusted fencing told the story of a place once full of desperation, now forgotten. But it wasn't forgotten by Anna. She stood outside the front gate, hands in her pockets, her eyes scanning the crumbling structure. Emily held Radar's leash a few feet back, while Jonathan spoke with Nolan, who had arranged for temporary access through an old city contact. She was here, Anna whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. Somewhere in there, she waited. Jonathan approached. The office and dormitory records were cleared out, but there's a basement storage unit that might still have files. We won't find anything official, but sometimes people leave notes, journals, personal items. Anna didn't wait for permission. She stepped over the loose fencing and started toward the door. It creaked open with a strained groan, dust swirling in the stale air. Jonathan turned on his flashlight, casting long beams down the dim corridors. Water stains marked the ceiling, and the floor crunched beneath their feet with broken tile and old paper. The basement was worse. The air was damp, and the stairs sagged with every step. Jonathan held Emily's hand as they descended. Anna already ahead. Her focus sharp. They found the storage room buried beneath years of neglect. Broken filing cabinets, moldy cardboard boxes, and remnants of forgotten lives littered the space. Anna moved fast, opening drawers, rifling through records. She didn't know what she was looking for, but she'd know it when she saw it. Jonathan picked through the boxes more methodically, setting aside folders with names and dates that didn't match. Emily sat on the floor beside Radar, who whined and sniffed near a corner wall. "Radar's acting weird," she said. Anna turned. "Weird how?" "He's digging." Jonathan moved quickly to where Radar had begun pawing at a collapsed section of drywall. Carefully, he pulled aside some of the debris and reached into the hollow space. His hand hit something solid, a small wooden box. Anna knelt beside him as he opened it. Inside was a collection of old Polaroids, torn letters, and a single cassette tape with a yellow sticker on the side. "MW, do not throw out." Jonathan pulled out the tape and held it up. "This is it." They returned to the car in silence, the box held tightly in Anna's arms. Back home, Jonathan found an old tape recorder in the attic, something he hadn't used in over a decade but kept for nostalgia. The tape clicked into place with a satisfying snap. He pressed play. The sound of static filled the room for a moment, followed by a familiar voice, fragile, wavering. "This is Mary Walker. If someone finds this, it means I didn't make it out." Anna's body stiffened. Mary's voice continued. "I was never supposed to know what they were doing. I just cleaned offices at night. I never asked questions. But one night, I found files, payments, names, something about child trafficking and medical testing. I tried to tell someone, but they told me I was mistaken, that if I said another word, I'd be reported for neglecting my girls. So I stayed quiet. I stayed quiet too long." Anna's hands trembled. They started watching me, men in suits, a car that followed me home. One day, I came back and Leonard was there. He told me he was sent to handle me, but he saw my girls and said he'd help. I believed him. I was stupid. Jonathan's face darkened. "Now I know they'll never let me go, so I'm running. If I don't come back, tell Anna and Emily it wasn't their fault. Tell them I loved them every second I was alive. And tell them, if anyone ever comes asking, the man who paid for everything, the money, the silence, his name was William Harrow." The tape clicked off. The room fell into stunned silence. "William Harrow," Jonathan repeated, his voice low. "The former CEO of Tricor Pharmaceuticals." Anna turned to him. "You know him?" "He was forced to resign 10 years ago after a financial scandal. But no one ever connected him to anything criminal." "But Mom did," Anna whispered. "She found something." Jonathan stood and grabbed his laptop. "We need to find out what Tricor was doing when she worked there. And we need to do it fast." While he searched, Anna read through the letters. Most were to herself and Emily. Some were unfinished, ink smudged, as if written in the dark. All were filled with longing, regret, love. "She didn't run from us," Anna said finally. "She ran for us." Jonathan looked up. "Anna, if we go down this path, we'll be exposing people who buried this for a reason. You don't owe the world anything. Not this." "Yes, I do," Anna said. "Because somewhere out there, there are other kids like us. And no one ever heard their mother's tapes." Jonathan nodded. "Then we take the fight to them." That night, as Anna sat by her window, watching the city lights blink like nervous stars, she realized something had changed. The fear that once lived in her chest had transformed into something else. "Resolve," she whispered into the night. "We're coming, Mom. We're coming for the truth." The next morning came thick with tension, the kind that hung in the air before a storm. Silent but undeniable. Jonathan had barely slept. His desk was covered in printouts, old news articles, financial records, and court documents, all linking William Harrow to Tricor Pharmaceuticals, and more chillingly, to a series of closed-door medical trials from over a decade ago. Anna sat at the kitchen table, reviewing the contents of the wooden box again, her fingers brushing over each letter from her mother like they were holy pages. Emily fed Radar small pieces of banana, unaware of the gravity thickening around her. Rosa placed a bowl of oatmeal in front of Anna, her stern gaze soft for once. Eat, mija. You can't take on the world with an empty stomach. Anna looked up. You believe me, right? About what the tape said? I don't just believe you, Rosa said. I believe your mama. A mother doesn't run from her children unless she's trying to keep them alive. Jonathan walked in, phone pressed to his ear. He held up a finger to pause the conversation. Yes, I understand, he said into the phone, but I don't want this going to the police yet. We need the right reporter, someone who won't bury the story for a check. He paused. Yes, that one. Set the meeting. He ended the call and turned to Anna. I have a contact at the Sentinel. Her name's Adrian Fields, investigative journalist. Has a reputation for exposing government and corporate corruption, and for not backing down when things get ugly. When can we meet her? Anna asked. Today, he said. She agreed to come here, said if we had something real, she wanted to see it herself. A few hours later, Adrian Fields arrived. She was in her late 40s, with sharp eyes, a leather-bound notepad, and a voice like sandpaper soaked in truth. She listened patiently as Jonathan explained the tape, the shelter, Marcus, and Mary's disappearance. Then she turned to Anna. You were 6 when your mother vanished? Anna nodded. But I remember everything. The sound of her voice, the way she looked back before she closed the door that night. Adrian flipped open her notebook. Tell me again about Harrow. The tape says he paid to keep something quiet? Yes, Anna said. She found files about children, experiments, payments made to people to look the other way. Adrian tapped her pen. And you believe she was silenced? Jonathan placed the cassette player on the table and pressed play. Adrian listened without blinking. When it ended, she leaned back slowly, hands clasped together. I've followed Harrow before, she said, but never had anything stick. This changes things. We're ready to go public, Jonathan said. But we need protection. Adrian nodded. I'll need a few days to verify everything. And I want to speak to Marcus myself. Can you make that happen? Jonathan nodded. Already working on it. That night, after Adrian left, Jonathan received a call from Nolan. His voice was tight, clipped. Marcus is missing. Jonathan stood up fast. What do you mean, missing? His apartment was torched this afternoon. Fire department says it was arson. Nobody found. But his neighbors say 2 men in suits visited hours before. Jonathan swore under his breath. Harrow's people? Looks like it. They're cleaning up. Fast. He ended the call and turned to Anna. We're not safe anymore. If they're burning evidence, they'll come for us next. Anna didn't flinch. Then we hit first. No. That night, they packed bags. Jonathan secured digital copies of the tape and files in multiple encrypted cloud accounts. He sent files to Adrian, Rose's cousin in Seattle, and even to Douglas, just in case something happened. But before they could leave town, an unexpected knock came at the door. Jonathan moved quickly, gun drawn, motioning for Rosa to take the girls upstairs. Anna refused to go. She stood beside him, her jaw tight. He opened the door slowly. It wasn't a threat. It was Carl. His face was battered, a split lip and a deep cut on his cheek. He looked exhausted, eyes darting behind him like he was being followed. I need to talk, he said, voice hoarse. Jonathan let him in. Carl collapsed onto the couch, breathing hard. They're watching me, he said. They found out I talked to you. Someone tried to run me off the road last night. Anna stepped closer. Why? What do you know? Carl looked at her with guilt in his eyes. I didn't tell you everything. I used to run deliveries for Tricor. I didn't know what was in the boxes, but I knew it wasn't normal. I saw your mom once, crying in the break room. She said they were testing drugs on unregistered kids. No records, no families. Anna's breath caught. I tried to walk away, Carl said. But someone threatened me. Said they'd make sure I ended up dead in a motel with drugs in my veins. So I shut up. But seeing you two again, I couldn't stay silent. Jonathan paced the room. Do you have proof? Carl pulled a USB drive from his coat. Everything I've got. Shipping manifests, emails, dates. Enough to make it explode if you can get someone to believe it. We already have, Anna said. And we're going to finish what she started. Jonathan looked at both of them, then at the drive. This is it, he said. We go to the press tomorrow. Public. Loud. Before they can silence us too. Anna looked out the window. The city lights blinked like a warning. We're not victims anymore, she said. We're witnesses. And with that, the line between their past and their future snapped in half. What came next would shake the foundation of power itself. The air felt different that morning. It wasn't just the brisk wind sweeping across the city or the gray clouds crawling over the skyline. It was the heaviness, the kind that comes before a verdict, before a reckoning. Jonathan adjusted his blazer in front of the mirror, the circles under his eyes deeper than usual. Behind him, Anna buttoned her black denim jacket slowly, staring at herself like she didn't recognize the girl in the reflection. Emily stood quietly, holding Radar's leash. Even the dog seemed to sense something momentous was coming. At precisely 9 a.m., Adrienne Fields and her camera crew arrived at the house. She carried with her a heavy black briefcase and the look of someone who'd been down dangerous roads before and lived to report on them. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" she asked Anna, her voice firm but not unkind. "There's no going back once this airs. Harrow will deny everything. The smear campaign will start before we even finish the broadcast." "I've been hiding for 12 years, Anna said. "I'm done running." The plan was simple. Go live on Adrienne's web series, which had a massive viewership of activists, whistleblowers, and independent news followers. The platform wasn't bound by network censors or ad dollars. It told stories the others were too scared to touch. They set up in the living room, one camera on Anna, another on Adrienne. The lights buzzed softly, and Radar lay curled at Anna's feet, eyes alert. "Rolling in 5, the cameraman said. 4, 3, 2. Adrienne turned toward the lens. "Good morning, America. I'm Adrienne Fields, and today, you're about to hear a story that was never meant to see the light of day. A story of corruption, betrayal, and buried truths. But more than that, it's a story of 2 girls who were thrown away by a system designed to protect them. One of them is here with us today." She turned to Anna. "Anna Walker, thank you for being here." Anna nodded. What you're about to share involves one of the most powerful pharmaceutical companies in the country, and a man many thought had disappeared after scandal. What gave you the courage to speak out?" Anna took a breath. "I used to think silence kept me safe. But silence is where monsters hide. My mom, Mary Walker, worked as a night janitor at Tricor Pharmaceuticals. She found out they were testing experimental drugs on undocumented children, orphans, runaways, kids no one would miss. When she tried to expose them, she was silenced. And when she tried to protect me and my sister, she vanished." Adrienne nodded solemnly. "And you have proof." Anna leaned forward. "We have her recorded testimony, shipping logs, names, and we have a witness, Carl Mendez, who used to work for Tricor." Carl stepped into frame from the hallway, bandaged but determined. "It's true. I saw the shipments. I saw the hush money. I kept quiet because I was afraid, but when I saw those girls again, I knew it was time to speak up." Adrienne addressed the camera again. "We will be publishing these documents on our website immediately following this broadcast. We've also sent them to federal investigators and human rights organizations." At that exact moment, hundreds of thousands of viewers were already sharing the stream. On phones, in classrooms, in offices. The truth was spreading faster than Harrow's lawyers could contain it, and as expected, within an hour, the retaliation began. Jonathan's phone buzzed with threats, anonymous numbers, vague warnings, then legal notices. "You'll be sued for defamation. You've endangered national security. You'll regret this." But he didn't flinch. "Let them come," he muttered. "Truth is the best shield we've got." Outside, news vans began to arrive. Neighbors stood on their porches, watching history unfold next door. A few offered thumbs up. One woman, gray-haired and teary-eyed, whispered, "It's about time someone said it out loud." By late afternoon, The Sentinel published a front-page story titled, "The Walker Files, A Mother's Last Words." Senators called for inquiries. Human rights groups demanded an independent investigation into Tricor's history. Former employees came out of the shadows, emboldened by the broadcast, but not everyone celebrated. That night, as the house quieted, Jonathan checked the perimeter cameras one last time. He locked the doors twice. He knew this wasn't over. Powerful men don't go down without a fight. Anna sat at the kitchen table, rereading one of her mother's letters. Emily came over and leaned against her. "Do you think she's watching?" Emily asked. Anna looked out the window at the stars. "I think she never stopped." Radar barked once at the door, then settled again. Upstairs, Rosa lit a candle and said a quiet prayer. For Mary. For the girls. For justice. And for the first time in a long time, the house felt like a home where truth lived. Not perfectly. Not without fear. But openly. The next morning, an unmarked envelope was found in their mailbox. No return address. Inside, a photograph. It was Mary, holding infant Anna and Emily, standing in front of a battered old sedan with a license plate tagged in Arizona. On the back of the photo were 5 handwritten words. "Keep going, I'm still here." Anna pressed the photo to her chest. A tear slipped down her cheek. Not all stories end with reunions. Not all battles are clean victories. But this was the day the silence broke, and for the first time, the world listened. The air felt different that morning. It wasn't just the brisk wind sweeping across the city or the gray clouds crawling over the skyline. It was the heaviness, the kind that comes before a verdict, before a reckoning. Jonathan adjusted his blazer in front of the mirror, the circles under his eyes deeper than usual. Behind him, Anna buttoned her black denim jacket slowly, staring at herself like she didn't recognize the girl in the reflection. Emily stood quietly, holding Radar's leash. Even the dog seemed to sense something momentous was coming. At precisely 9 a.m., Adrienne Fields and her camera crew arrived at the house. She carried with her a heavy black briefcase and the look of someone who'd been down dangerous roads before and lived to report on them. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" she asked Anna, her voice firm but not unkind. "There's no going back once this airs. Harrow will deny everything. The smear campaign will start before we even finish the broadcast." "I've been hiding for 12 years, Anna said. "I'm done running." The plan was simple. Go live on Adrienne's web series, which had a massive viewership of activists, whistleblowers, and independent news followers. The platform wasn't bound by network censors or ad dollars. It told stories the others were too scared to touch. They set up in the living room, one camera on Anna, another on Adrienne. The lights buzzed softly, and Radar lay curled at Anna's feet, eyes alert. "Rolling in 5, the cameraman said. 4, 3, 2, Adrienne turned toward the lens. "Good morning, America. I'm Adrienne Fields. And today, you're about to hear a story that was never meant to see the light of day. A story of corruption, betrayal, and buried truths. But more than that, it's a story of 2 girls who were thrown away by a system designed to protect them. One of them is here with us today." She turned to Anna. "Anna Walker, thank you for being here." Anna nodded. "Thank you for believing me. What you're about to share involves one of the most powerful pharmaceutical companies in the country, and a man many thought had disappeared after scandal. What gave you the courage to speak out?" Anna took a breath. "I used to think silence kept me safe. But silence is where monsters hide. My mom, Mary Walker, worked as a night janitor at Tricor Pharmaceuticals. She found out they were testing experimental drugs on undocumented children, orphans, runaways, kids no one would miss. When she tried to expose them, she was silenced. And when she tried to protect me and my sister, she vanished." Adrienne nodded solemnly. "And you have proof." Anna leaned forward. "We have her recorded testimony. Shipping logs. Names. And we have a witness, Carl Mendez, who used to work for Tricor." Carl stepped into frame from the hallway, bandaged but determined. "It's true. I saw the shipments. I saw the hush money. I kept quiet because I was afraid, but when I saw those girls again, I knew it was time to speak up." Adrian addressed the camera again. We will be publishing these documents on our website immediately following this broadcast. We've also sent them to federal investigators and human rights organizations. At that exact moment, hundreds of thousands of viewers were already sharing the stream. On phones, in classrooms, in offices. The truth was spreading faster than Harrow's lawyers could contain it, and as expected, within an hour, the retaliation began. Jonathan's phone buzzed with threats, anonymous numbers, vague warnings, then legal notices. You'll be sued for defamation. You've endangered national security. You'll regret this. But he didn't flinch. Let them come, he muttered. Truth is the best shield we've got. Outside, news vans began to arrive. Neighbors stood on their porches, watching history unfold next door. A few offered thumbs up. One woman, gray-haired and teary-eyed, whispered, "It's about time someone said it out loud." By late afternoon, the Sentinel published a front-page story titled, "The Walker Files, A Mother's Last Words." Senators called for inquiries. Human rights groups demanded an independent investigation into Tricor's history. Former employees came out of the shadows, emboldened by the broadcast, but not everyone celebrated. That night, as the house quieted, Jonathan checked the perimeter cameras one last time. He locked the doors twice. He knew this wasn't over. Powerful men don't go down without a fight. Anna sat at the kitchen table, rereading one of her mother's letters. Emily came over and leaned against her. "Do you think she's watching?" Emily asked. Anna looked out the window at the stars. "I think she never stopped." Radar barked once at the door, then settled again. Upstairs, Rosa lit a candle and said a quiet prayer. For Mary, for the girls, for justice, and for the first time in a long time, the house felt like a home where truth lived. Not perfectly, not without fear, but openly. The next morning, an unmarked envelope was found in their mailbox. No return address. Inside, a photograph. It was Mary, holding infant Anna and Emily, standing in front of a battered old sedan with a license plate tagged in Arizona. On the back of the photo were 5 handwritten words. "Keep going, I'm still here." Anna pressed the photo to her chest. A tear slipped down her cheek. Not all stories end with reunions. Not all battles are clean victories. But this was the day the silence broke, and for the first time, the world listened. The story of Anna and Emily teaches us a powerful lesson about courage, truth, and the enduring strength of love. Even in the face of betrayal, silence, and danger, standing up for what is right can spark change. Anna's determination to uncover her mother's truth reminds us that justice often begins with one brave voice, and that even when the world tries to forget the forgotten, the truth has a way of rising. Above all, the story shows that family is not defined by blood alone, but by the sacrifices we make to protect one another, and the love we refuse to let die.